Hi, this is Rudy Jones of PalmettoStateBaseball.com. Welcome to the South Carolina College Baseball Recap for Sunday, March 1st. There were 21 games involving state teams played on Sunday, and of course the one that had the most attention on it was the South Carolina-Clemson series finale over at Doug Kingsmore Stadium in Clemson. The Gamecocks tried for their first win in the series, first series win in the rivalry since 2023. Got off to a 2-0 lead in the top of the second on a 2-run single by Dawson Harmon. But Clemson quickly answered that in the bottom of the second with 2 runs, added 2 more runs in the third, got a home run from Ty Daly in the fourth, and tacked on 2 unearned runs in the sixth and won that game 7-2 to take the series 2-1. For the Tigers, Daly and Tristan McClatty had 2 RBI apiece, and Nate Savoy had 2 hits. Clemson, of course, is now 10-1. They got effective pitching again. Talon Bell was the starter. Drew Titsworth came in, and then Joe Allen and Danny Nelson finished it out for the Tigers. USC did not get a hit after the 4th inning, and the Gamecocks were held to 4 hits in the game for the 3rd straight day. They finished with a 132 batting average for the series, and that pretty much typified the struggles Carolina's been having this year, not getting a whole lot of offensive productivity. Something I'm sure they're going to be working on to improve on that. But anyway, again, Clemson wins 7-2. They're 10-1. Carolina fell to 7-5. Elsewhere, out in Houston, Scott Duran struck out 5 in 6 innings, and Darren Horn pitched 3 shutout innings as Coastal Carolina rallied to beat Ole Miss 9-2 to win the final game in the Bruce Bolt College Classic at Dakin Park in Houston. Of course, the Chants had lost their first 2 games in the series to Texas and UTSA and fell behind the Rebels 2-1 before making their late rally. Trace Mason and Dean Mijos drove in 2 runs apiece for the Chanticleers, who, as I mentioned, are now 7-4. Also for Coastal, Colby Thorndyke had a double, a walk, and scored twice. Coastal again comes out of Houston with a win in the last one to get some momentum out of that. It was a rough week for them, losing a couple of their pitchers to injuries or finding out they're going to be out for about 8 weeks, but they did rally and to do that. Elsewhere, a big game in NCAA Division II. North Greenville and Francis Marion were playing the final game of their Conference Carolina series. Both teams were ranked nationally. Each team won 1 game in the series going into Sunday, and Francis Marion had to be feeling pretty good about itself after 1 inning at Sparrow Stadium. Patriots are up 6-0. Final score, North Greenville 29, Francis Marion 11. Josh Fowkes had 5 hits and drove in 8 runs for the Trailblazers, who are now 16-2 overall, 7-2 in Conference Carolinas. And Francis Marion fell to 15-3 and 7-2. North Greenville rallied from being down 6-0 to take a 7-6 lead, and then they were tied by Francis Marion. He pulled out to 10-7. Francis Marion tied it again. But in its final 5 at-bats, North Greenville scored 3, 4, 9, 3, and 3 runs. Pretty good stuff to way to finish off. All 8 pitchers that Francis Marion used in the game allowed at least 1 run. Fowkes, as I mentioned, had 5 hits, and he had 2 singles, 2 doubles, and a homer. Connor McKee had 3 hits, drove in 6, and McKee and Thomas Powell also homered. 10 of North Greenville's 29 hits went for extra bases. Also for the Trailblazers, again, they were 16-2 now. That ties them with Francis Marion in the conference. And elsewhere, Jalen Hernandez and Josh Skoronsky homered as Winthrop stretched its winning streak to 7 by completing the series sweep at Maine. The final score, against Maine, the final score was 9-6. The Black Bears came back and tied the game before North Greenville. Having a terrible time tonight, folks. Sorry, bear with me. Before Winthrop pulled away. Winthrop is now 9-2. They won their first 2, lost the next 2, and they've won 7 straight since then. Elsewhere, Florida State completed a sweep of the Citadel with a 2-0 win. The Bulldogs were held to 2 hits in getting shut out. Really tough weekend for the Bulldogs. They got pretty good pitching. If you'd have told Bulldogs coach Russell Triplett that they were going to give up 3 earned runs for the weekend against Florida State, he'd have probably been feeling pretty good about their chances. But alas, As it turns out, the Seminoles won to improve to 8-2, and Citadel fell to 4-5. In Charleston, the Buccaneers improved their record to 10-1 with a sweep of Brown. Charleston Southern scored in 6 of its 7 innings. Tyler Wright was 3 for 4 with a homer and 3 RBI for the Buccaneers. As again I said, they're 10-1. Brown fell to 1-5. In Greenwood, Lowndes Still singled and tripled to drive in 6 runs, and Lander won Game 1 against Claflin by a score of 18-4. And then the Bearcats got 12 hits, 7 walks, and 5 hit batsmen in the nightcap to win that game by a score of 10-3. That improved the Bearcats to 12-6 in the Peach Belt. Overall 6-3 in the Peach Belt. Claflin fell to 3-12 and 0-9, and the Panthers have lost 10 straight games, unfortunately. Florence Darlington Tech got a pair of run rule wins over USC Lancaster. The scores were 11-1 in 5 innings in Game 1 and 17-2 in 5 innings in Game 2. The Stingers are now 18-5 overall, 4-1 in Region 10. Lancaster fell to 9-9 and 1-4. For the Stingers, Diego Garcia had 3 hits in Game 1, and Jake Zahner had 3 hits in Game 2. Also on Sunday, USC Union took a pair of wins over USC Salkehatchie. Their first game score was 8-1. Second game score was 13-3 in 6 innings. Bryce Gillette, who I picked as my player of the day for Sunday, he had 9 of USC Union's 21 runs scored. He drove in 9 of their 21 runs. He was 3 for 6 with 2 homers, 2 runs scored, 2 walks, a stolen base, and those 9 RBI. The Bantams improved to 12-4 overall and 3-1 in the Peach Belt, while Salkehatchie fell to 3-18 and 1-3. Also, USC Aiken completed a series sweep of Flagler in the Peach Belt Conference by a score of 10-6. The Pacers got 17 hits. They're now 14-4 overall, 5-1 in the Peach Belt, and Flagler fell to 12-6 and 2-4. Benedict completed a series sweep of Kentucky State in the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. That game score was 13-7. The Tigers are now 8-3 overall. They've won 8 straight games after an 0-3 start, and they are 6-3 in the SIAC. Kentucky State fell to 0-14 and 0-9. St. Joseph scored 5 runs over the final 2 innings to overtake Wofford and win that game 10-6 in Spartanburg. The Eagles are now 3-7. Wofford fell to 8-3. Down in Statesboro, Georgia Southern scored 4 runs in the 8th and won the rubber game of their series with USC Upstate by a score of 9-8. The Eagles were winless until the weekend. They're now 2-9. Upstate fell to 7-6. In Spartanburg, Johnson, which is nationally ranked in NAIA, got out of a bases-loaded jam by Spartanburg Methodist in the bottom of the 9th, went on to beat the Pioneers by a score of 8-7 in 10 innings to complete a series sweep. Johnson is now 16-1 overall, 8-0 in the Appalachian Athletic Conference. The Pioneers fell to 6-9 and 1-5. Carson Newman was down to its last inning against Anderson and scored 8 runs in the 9th and won that game over the Trojans by a score of 11-6 to avoid being swept in a South Atlantic Conference series at Anderson Memorial Stadium. The Eagles improved to 9-8 overall, 2-7 in the SAC. Anderson is now 13-5 and 4-5. And for Anderson, Braden Harrison had a single, homer, 2 runs scored, and 2 RBI. Up in Gastonia, Gaston College scored the game's final 10 runs and beat USC Sumter by a score of 10-2 in the rubber game of that Region 10 Junior College Series. The Rhinos are now 20-2 overall, 4-2 in the region. USC Sumter fell to 10-6 and 2-3. Down in Jacksonville, North Florida wrapped up a series sweep of Presbyterian with a run rule win over the Blue Hose by a score of 11-1 in 7 innings. The Ospreys improved to 8-5. PC fell to 2-10 and has lost 10 straight games. Georgia College completed a sweep of USC Beaufort in the Peach Belt Conference with a score of 15-5, also in run rule fashion. The Bobcats improved to 5-12 overall, 4-5 in the Peach Belt. USC Beaufort fell to 4-12 and 0-9. That's all the action in the State for Sunday. Now in the first pitch invitational, not involving any state teams, but Illinois beat Albany 14-6, and James Madison beat Michigan State 4-2. In the second game of the Bruce Bolt Classic, where Coastal was playing, Texas beat Ohio State 10-3. Texas, San Antonio, and Baylor are playing as we speak, as I record this. And that's it for the Sunday. On Monday, there's only one game. It is USC Union at USC Salkehatchie in the completion of that Region 10 series. In a little while, I'm going to be recording my That Was the Week That Was for this week. Sorry, things are running so late. I had a couple of family-related issues that I needed to deal with. No emergency, just time-consuming. And I'll try to do things in a more timely fashion next week. Again, for now, this is Rudy Jones of Palmetto State Baseball. Reminders you can follow my X reports at Palmetto Base. This is the handle. Visit PalmettoStateBaseball.com for coverage. Also have the Palmetto State Baseball group on Facebook. Email me at rudyjones@PalmettoStateBaseball.com with suggestions on what you'd like to see me cover. Again, I hope you have a great night. It's going to be a great Monday for you. Remember, Jesus loves you, and good night.